Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and this time I'm going to talk about my first initial impressions of Dragon Age. I played it last night. I did my first live stream. I played to about like 5 to 6 hours, 5ish hours I would say, 5 hours. I did like the first three missions, and I have to say, right, so early access reviews, what we've seen. So we played like everyone else, right? We waited until the proper release date, we got the game and we played it. Early access, people who have got early access games, we saw game journalists, and journalist websites like IGN and etc. and stuff like that. We saw them rank the game really high, giving it 9 out of 10 and stuff, and then we saw other content creators and other gamers rank the game really low. And what do I feel about this after initial impressions, right? Initial impressions, this can change, right? And what I feel is the game is really not that bad, right? It's not that great as some people say, and it's not as bad as others would say, right? It's a fine line in between. I have to say, right? There are certain aspects of the game which are quite enjoyable, I would say. I think the combat is really. I think the combat is good. It is a dumbed down version of the combat system in of Dragon Age 3. It is a dumbed down version. It is more simplistic, right? It is easy to use. I think the dodge mechanics, the dodging feels good. The rolling, yeah, the dodge make feels good. The blocks, the parry system feels good. It's not too bad. Um, I would say the tactical camera, the tactical pause, I would say that feels a bit cluttered. Like it takes up the whole screen. You can't exactly see where all the enemies are at times. So I feel that is a little bit badly done, but it works. It works, right? You can still make do with, but yeah, it's not the best. But I would say the combat is quite good. It is seemingly enjoyable, I would say, the combat. But that's the problem. Dragon Age has always been about the story, right? You want to get through the combat as quickly as possible so you can experience the story. But in this, it's somewhat the other way around. Like, you can't wait to get through the story so you can just do a little bit more fighting. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but it is what it is. And the story so far feels okay, right? Um, but yeah, the elephant in the room. We need to address the elephant in the room. What people have been saying bad about this game is, yes, of course, the forced political views, the forced political agenda, the forced diversity, which somewhat, dude, me being a minority, I feel that it is just a bit too much at times. It is, dude, you can do your best to play through this game without taking uh the gender options and things like that, right? And still you see subtleness of stuff being pushed into the game, into dialogue options at times, and you're like, you just think to yourself like, this is not necessary, right? This is not what characters of this dark, if of this dark fantasy, this timeline, this time, this period, this in this period of time, this fantasy, this in this fantasy world, this is not what they will be thinking. It is not in line with what Dragon Age characters have been doing as of past, right? Look, Dragon Age has had its fair share of gender identity and stuff in the previous games, and it was fine the way they did that. Nothing was forced. If you chose to be this, you are that. If you chose to be this, you are that, and nothing was forced. In this, it is heavily forced. Like, even though you are playing a certain way you want to play, you have been shown the other side, and you're like, oh, maybe there should be an option. This should be done. Like, you get a little bit of shoved in your face, and that is what I feel is what kind of like ruins the overall experience. All right, so I'll try to just go through my playthrough a little bit. Okay, character creation, right? I try to make an authentic Kunari, right? Like the Kunari we saw, that of Dragon Age 2. Immensely, almost impossible to do that, right? Kurari are supposed to look rugged, right? Rugged. I try to reduce the forehead. I try to get rid of this forehead problem, but it was like so difficult. Like, the options are very limited, and for some whatever reason, the skin is always smooth. It's like they had like some like a facelift or something all the time. It is so difficult to get a badass looking Kunari because for whatever reason, your Kunari ends up fine looking. This is the best I could do. I don't know if people would have been able to do better jobs than me. This could be just my, this could be a my character design skill issue. I don't know, but this is the best I could do, right? I try to slap on as much tattoos and war paint to make him as menacingly looking. I put the scars, but still, it just doesn't seem enough. The face is too smooth. I can't get the tough, rugged skin look that I want to. I mean, look at the rest. They look like models, right? This is not what Kunari. These are the presets. This is not what they need to look like, right? Let's be honest. Kunari are beast men and women. Nothing about this says beast men or beast man or woman. All right. Let's put that aside, right? Let's put that aside. So we did a Kunari. We chose the backstory. Backstories are fine. It all feels okay, right? Nothing too bad. Um, but so I think the vibe. We're still getting into it, right? We're still getting into it. They did an early reveal of the Elden Gods. Like they showed them like planning at a certain point, right? They showed them like planning, like them plotting behind the scenes at one point. I feel like it was not necessary. They should have like held on to the big reveal of what they looked like and what they mean to do a little bit longer, build up the suspense a bit. But I think they revealed them a bit too early, and they kind of ruined the surprise for me. But then again, it's just me, right? This is what I feel. It was a bit of a letdown. I feel like they could have like held on to that and keep the story a bit like fresh for a little while. So I'm playing a spellblade Kunari here. I feel like I should have gone a warrior Kunari. I think warrior always suits the Kunari best, but it's fine. I haven't played a mage build in any of my playthroughs in Dragon Age games, so this is the first time I'm giving it a try. I mean, it's fine, right? It's fine. It's not too bad. It feels quite good actually, the combat, and this is one of the few things that are good about the game, the combat. Um, the characters so far feel okay. I think Nev is fine for a person of Tevinter origin. I think so far. Yeah, let's talk about the elves, right? I think the elven race. Look, I get it. I get it. They're trying to include diversity, but you don't need to shove it everywhere, right? Like, uh, it's like the entire elven race is either of either dark or they're Asian at this point, which does not make any sense to me. And the demeanor, elves carry themselves about in a certain way. In Dragon Age lore, the elves were at a higher standard at one point, and then they were reduced to a lowly race because of their loss with the connection with the Veil, right, with magic. So they carry themselves about in a certain way, which is like we think of ourselves like we are still worthy of something, but we they're kind of like treated as a slave race here and there, right? So I don't see that here, right? They don't carry themselves about because if you look at past elves that we've had, right, like Meryl from Dragon Age 2 and things like that, they the way they carry themselves, and over here they're like uh, I don't know, they're like they don't feel like the elves of Dragon Age for some reason. Look, it's not that I'm hating on them, you know, swapping races and stuff. I just feel like it is a bit too much. It's like a different race at this point, right? That's my issue. It doesn't feel like stuff of all. The skill tree is quite good. I would say the skill tree is quite complex. It has a lot of stuff happening in it. You can specialize in so many different ways, and the skill mastery system. I think this is quite good. It's quite well done. Uh, Puzzle solving is quite nice as well. But about what I really want to dive into is right here, somewhere towards the end. I was facing some options, right? And I think this is what started like this is what kind of like threw me off into yeah, this part. So in this section of the game, I'm not going to spoil too much. Rook is kind of like reflecting on himself, right? And I feel like they'll be doing this quite a few times, like trying to make plot points out of things like this, right? So over here, yeah, some right here. There we go. Right here. I'm not sure if you can read it. So he's reflecting on himself, right? And now look at this. They're giving us, other than the regular dialogue options, they're giving us some options like scar options, gender identity options, tattoo options, and it says examine options related to gender identity. Choosing one will conclude the conversation. Like, why is it even relevant at all? Like, at no point, I feel like at no point were Dragon Age characters worried about gender identity. Everyone was included, everything was inclusive, right? Already at this point, everyone was accepted. There was at no point saying like these people were oppressed or anything, and they had to come out of their shell, reveal their identity. No, in Dragon Age, the only social issue they had was elves, right? Elves been regarded as lowly, and then mages, right? Because of the Templar issue, those were their social issues, right? I'm not sure why these are issues now. Like, this is a fantasy world. We do not need current world issues in here, because in here all races, all gender is already accepted. I'm not sure like why people need to, like, why these options are relevant now, because these were not the social issues of Dragon Age. I'm not like, I'm okay. Like, you can choose, like having the character creation was fine, like you can choose what you want to play as. But this kind of subtle like stuff where they're trying to force conversations in certain directions, you're just like, it just feels forced, right? Because you never had this in the previous Dragon Age games, despite having characters of different genders and different gender identities. They had it all along, but none of this was ever enforced. And like this, and these kind of, I feel like this is not the only time so far. This is the first time I came across this. And yeah, this is the first time I came across this. And like these kind of, like, if this is where they're trying to enforce the conversation to try and push, like, as much as it's still an option, right? I try to avoid this and try to keep like a normal storyline flowing. Like nothing about like none of the characters I've played have in any way had to question their gender identity, right? So yeah, these kind of things like kind of like ruin the Dragon Age experience, right? Dragon Age was always a fantasy game which is focused on its own problems. It was all about good versus evil. It was never about people having identity issues or things like that, right? So these is this unnecessary, right? Is this unnecessary? um Look, once again, this is not me hearing, it's just me stating that it's making the normal playthrough um unenjoyable, because like these are elements that does not need to be in the story element. So yeah, I mean, like, so all this considered, right? Look, I came into this expecting that the game would be really bad, as people say, but it's not really bad. It's actually quite good. But things like this is what which kind of like enforces the negativity aspect of the game. So far, what I feel is like, I feel like this is like a 6-7 game, right? I don't think it's too bad, right? Like, you can still play without these options. You can still get a really good playthrough eventually, right? And I still think the game can be enjoyable, but it'll never be as great as the previous games. Like, it'll never surpass Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 being the the best Dragon Age game ever. 2, 1, 3, 4. So I don't think this will ever be as good as those games, but it's still holding out on its own. Like, as an individual game, this will be a good game. Compared to past Dragon Age games, not so much, unfortunately. So this is not like a 9-10 game, and as like you see on these websites. I would say, in my opinion, this is like a 6-7 game. Yeah, I mean, like, it's okay. You can still enjoy the game. Try and ignore these options. Just make sure that it doesn't just make things cringy or just sour the playthrough. And I guess you could go about it. I'm gonna continue playing, because like, I still think the story has a lot to give. I still think it's fine. Uh, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, um, hopefully we don't run into too many of these kind of enforced dialogue options moving like in our playthroughs, but touch wood, yeah. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll be excited to just see how the story progresses and how this pans out to be. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next live stream or video then. Till next time then. Bye bye.